Welcome to Power Code Music. In this presentation, we're going to talk about the Morningstar MC6 MIDI controller and why I use it. In my home studio, the ability to remote control devices is extremely important to my workflow. When recording, my motto is, put a pedal on it. This is because in my home studio, I record all of my music myself. This means that I need as much help as I can get from my gear to support my processes and workflow. If I have to constantly get up to do something, or if I'm not able to use my feet to kick off a process when my hands are on a keyboard, guitar, or holding drumsticks, then I have a problem. For example, I have remote control pedals on my Tascam DP24 Digital Porta Studio, my Alesis MMT8 sequencer, my Akai MPK88 MIDI keyboard controller, my Akai MPC1, along with various guitar amplifiers naturally. I also have a handheld remote control for my Tascam SD20M 2-track recorder that I use for mastering. However, it's important to stress that I only have one MIDI controller foot pedal, and there are good reasons for that. Now we'll discuss that further later in the summary of this presentation. I use the Morningstar MC6 MIDI controller foot pedal, and it more than fits my requirements, allowing me to program and control all MIDI aspects of MIDI devices in my home studio. It is important to understand that the Morningstar MC6 MIDI controller includes MMC, which stands for MIDI Machine Control. Many of the MIDI foot controller pedals on the market today do not offer this specific feature, so you should use caution when shopping for one. Without MMC, you won't be able to control important and specific features on some MIDI devices. For instance, many popular MIDI devices, like the Akai MPC1, require MMC in order to remotely execute commands like play, pause, stop, and record. Now, this is one of the primary ways I use my MC6. So be sure to check if MMC is required to control your MIDI devices before you purchase a MIDI controller pedal. Let's review the features of the Morningstar MC6 MIDI controller foot pedal. The unit is compatible with any device that accepts MIDI. Send any type of MIDI message, and every switch on the unit is independently programmable. Again, you can send any type of MIDI message including PC, CC, SysX, MMC, and more. You can send up to 16 different MIDI messages across 16 MIDI channels with each switch. Now what this means is that you can control up to 16 different devices with a single switch. Now that's powerful. Send different groups of messages depending upon what action you want to invoke. Assignable actions per switch include press, release, double tap, long press, and more. Send, receive, and relay MIDI clock messages to keep your effects synced. You can tap in a tempo or send preset BPM parameters. Now when it comes to connections, when it comes to MIDI and connections I should say, there's a MIDI in, out, and USB. And for power, you can use a 9 to 12 volt DC adapter or power the unit via USB. MC6 has two Omni ports that are called EXP1 and EXP2. Now what's cool about this is you can set them up to be MIDI or through outputs, or configure them to be aux switch inputs or expression pedal inputs. You can use the MC6 to control your digital audio workstation software, the plugins, and other music software on your PC or Mac, because you can MIDI map your controls to your foot switch with your digital audio workstation software. Now there's an application called the Morningstar Editor software application that allows you to program the unit. With this software, you can view and back up all of your switch and message settings. You can also change the name of your switches and data banks, and the software is compatible with Windows, Mac, and other mobile units. MC6 allows you to create like song and set lists and navigate through them using the bank jump feature on the unit. Now, let's review the Morningstar MC6 MIDI controller foot pedals technical specifications. When it comes to ins and outs, the unit has two 5-pin DIN MIDI ports and also a USB Type-B port for MIDI. It also has two 1/4-inch Omni ports, which you can use for expression pedal in or aux switch in or as a MIDI out. The hardware enclosure is aluminum and the foot switches are a soft touch foot switch. The unit is well built and I believe it's going to last. It feels pretty sturdy. There's a 24:2 character LCD display as well on the top of the unit. You can power the unit using a 9 to 12 volt DC adapter or by using the USB power. And below that are the dimensions of the unit. It's a little bit bigger than your hand, basically. Let's view the Morningstar MC6 MIDI controller's top panel switches. MC6 includes 6 foot switches which are labeled A through F. Each switch is related to the LCD text closest to it on the LCD display. Each switch on the controller can send any combination of up to 16 different MIDI messages that you select. By default, all switches are empty until you program them to send MIDI messages. You can give each switch a custom name so you always know what it does. And MC6 has 30 banks that contain 12 switch presets and 2 expression pedal presets. To navigate the banks, press switches B and C to bank up and press switches A and B to bank down. Holding down either of these switch combinations will continuously scroll up or down through the banks. Now, it's important to note that each bank has 2 pages. The first 6 switch presets that are A through F are accessed on page 1, and the next 6, G through L, are accessed on page 2. We'll review the Morningstar MC6 MIDI controllers back panel connections. First, we have our MIDI in port, which is followed by our MIDI out port. We then have our USB Type-B port, which is followed by our 9-volt DC power connector. Last but not least, we have our Expression Pedal 1 port, which is followed by the Expression Pedal 2 port. As a prelude to understanding how to program the Morningstar MC6, we'll first review the unit's bank and preset architecture using a flowchart. As stated previously, MC6 has 30 banks that contain 12 switch presets and 2 expression pedal presets. You can see that on the flowchart on your screen. Each preset can be programmed to send 16 different messages of your choice on 16 different MIDI channels. Now with this, each preset is capable of controlling up to 16 different MIDI devices simultaneously. This can be a very powerful setup. Now, we'll look at how I program my Morningstar MC6 MIDI foot pedal. To customize and configure the MC6, first you'll need to download the Morningstar Editor software application from Morningstar's website. Now they have it for both Mac and Windows, and I'm using the Windows version. So when you download it, the cool thing about this is you don't need to install it on your PC. Just double click the executable program, at least on Windows, and it'll open up to the screen you see here. The first thing you want to do though before you double click and invoke the application is to connect the MC6 via USB to your PC. Now once you've done all that, you would come to the Morningstar application and click Select Device to Connect and connect to your Morningstar MC6. And once you do that, you're going to see the screen change and you'll see all of your additional information here for your device so you can start programming it. Now, if you want to know how to use this software application in detail, go to Morningstar's website and look at the tutorial. What I'm just going to do is show you how I set mine up. So basically, all the presets that you saw earlier on my device are here to the side. Play, stop, rewind, pause, record, rewind, play, all of that stuff. I'm using this particular device and this bank for my Akai MPC1 workstation. So with that, what I did for my first preset, which is play, is I named it. I went ahead for the bank preset, which is bank 1 and preset A, and I just put in the name. I'm not using any toggle switch or anything, and then I put in a long name. And then what I did is I went to program the action, which is going to be press. I just want to press down on it and have my unit play. So with that, with the action, when you click on the action parameter, you'll see all the different actions that you can take. So mine was press. And then what you want to do is select the type of action. And again, just click on the parameter there and you'll see all the different types of actions that you can use for this particular preset. So here I used MMC. Now once I picked MMC, I can go down to MMC commands and then select which MMC command I want to use. You can see you got stop, play, deferred play, fast forward, everything. I just want to simply use play. And with that, your device ID will come up. I just left my device ID. It goes all the way up to 127. I left mine at 0, which was fine. And once I did that, all you have to do is click Save Preset. Okay? Once you click Save Preset, that is going to send this information to your MC6. So that's just a really quick summary of how I set it up, because I did the same thing for stop, rewind, pause, record, and so on. It was really simple to do. To move on to your next message, you would do the same thing. So you would select your action, select your type, and then the other parameters will come up under that once you do that. And you can set up many different parameters for each switch, and then you can move on to the next bank and do the same thing for different devices. So again, in a nutshell, that's basically how I set it up for my Akai MPC1. In summary, at $230 new, the Morningstar MC6 is expensive when compared to many other MIDI controller foot pedals on the market today. However, remember that the MC6 can send any type of MIDI message. Now that's a critical feature that makes the MC6 more powerful than many of its competitors. The fact that the MC6 can send and receive MIDI using the 5-pin DIN port, USB, and a 1/4-inch Omni EXP port makes it truly flexible. I only need one MIDI foot pedal controller because using the banks and presets, I can store multiple MIDI configurations for use with my other MIDI devices. Now this includes my sound modules, sequencers, effects processors, and more. I found that using the Morningstar MC6 MIDI controller was well worth the purchase price for me, because its addition to my setup has made my workflow much easier. Well, that, my friends, is a wrap. If you like this presentation, please give it the thumbs up and click the subscribe button on your screen now to join our group. We have new presentations coming out every 7 to 14 days, and we would love to have you be a part of our team. Also, leave a comment in the comment section below. Let us know what you think about this presentation. And check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Spotify. While you're here, please listen to some of the music, check out some of the other videos. Let us know what you think about that too. Thank you so much for stopping by. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you soon.